Imagine a world where music could tame wild beasts, where the sadness of a broken heart could shape the very earth beneath your feet. That was the power of Orpheus, the legendary musician whose melodies could enchant even the gods themselves. But what happens when this divine gift is silenced by the cruelest of fates? Orpheus, the legendary musician and poet, was deeply in love with his wife Eurydice, a beautiful nymph. Their love was strong and pure, and it was said that Orpheus's music, played on his lyre, was so enchanting that it could charm wild animals, trees, and even the gods themselves. However, his happiness was short-lived. One day, while Eurydice was walking through a meadow, she was chased by Aristeus, a minor god of agriculture and beekeeping who wanted her. Fleeing from him, Eurydice stepped on a poisonous snake and was fatally bitten. She died instantly, and her soul was taken to the underworld. Orpheus was devastated by her death. He wandered the world in mourning, stricken with grief. His music, once beautiful, became sad, full of lament for his lost love. His songs, so full of sorrow, made even the trees and rivers weep. Determined to bring Eurydice back, Orpheus ventured into the underworld, a place no living mortal has ever dared to enter. Armed only with his lyre, Orpheus played his mournful music as he passed the various terrifying inhabitants of the underworld, including the Furies and Cerberus, the three-headed dog who guarded the gates. His music was so powerful that it moved even the most fearsome beings. When he reached Hades and Persephone, the rulers of the underworld, Orpheus played his lyre once more, singing about the pain of love and loss. His music was so moving that it softened even the heart of Hades, the god of the underworld. Overcome with compassion for Orpheus's suffering, Hades agreed to let him take Eurydice back to the land of the living, but on one condition: Orpheus must not look at her until they had both reached the surface. If he did, Eurydice would remain in the underworld forever. With Eurydice behind him, Orpheus began the long ascent back to the world of the living. However, as they neared the surface, doubt and anxiety began to take hold of Orpheus. He couldn't hear Eurydice's footsteps behind him, and the fear of losing her once again became unbearable. In a moment of weakness, he turned to look at her just as they were about to reach the surface. The moment Orpheus turned to look at his wife, Eurydice was instantly pulled back into the underworld, her soul disappearing before his eyes. The tragic consequence of Orpheus's disobedience was immediate. He had broken the only rule that could bring her back. The moment he turned around, she was lost forever, and her world plunged into eternal darkness. Devastated and heartbroken, Orpheus couldn't bear the loss of Eurydice a second time. He wandered the earth in total despair, refusing the company of all others. His pain was so deep that he rejected the love of all women, saying that he would never love anyone other than Eurydice. This led to his tragic encounter with a group of Maenads, followers of Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry. The Maenads, driven mad by the chaotic power of Dionysus, were furious at Orpheus's refusal to recognize their god. In a wild frenzy, they attacked Orpheus, tearing him apart with their bare hands. When they had killed him, they threw his dismembered body into the river Hebrus. Even in death, Orpheus's lyre continued to play. His head and lyre floated downstream, still singing mournfully. The waters of the river and the trees along the banks, moved by his beautiful music, wept for him. Orpheus's head, still singing his tragic songs, eventually washed ashore on the island of Lesbos, where it was buried and became a revered site. His soul was finally reunited with Eurydice, albeit in the afterlife, and they were together once more. Orpheus's death is a deep and sad story that touches on several profound themes of love, loss, fate, and the consequences of disobedience. Orpheus's mistake, turning to look at Eurydice, symbolizes the fragility of hope and the unbearable pain of uncertainty. His tragic end at the hands of the Maenads also highlights the danger of resisting the gods and the chaos that ensues when mortals are too consumed by sadness or pride. Orpheus's death serves as a reminder of the limits of human power in the face of fate, and how even the most talented individuals are not immune to tragedy.